Time now for our rants and raves, starting with Roy.
Yes, and guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to pick something from that press conference. I really
You had trouble digging that up, right?
I love the idea. The people that, in 2 days of television, you really got a chance to see what the media is dealing with, how they cover Kavanaugh, how they cover the press conference. But there was one, well, there were many things that jumped out at me about the press conference, but one that really bothered me because I just think it would be so nice if every now and then someone would just stand up and tell the truth. And this was the case where President Trump announced that he had won 52% of the women's vote in the election, which is absolutely false. He's made that statement a number of times. You know it's going to be fact-checked the next day. But there was a part of me that just was thinking, what a nice next question that would be. Excuse me, Mr. President, you won 41% according to all exit polls, and the 52% referred to perhaps, I mean, who knows, it was 52% of white women, but 4% of black women, Latinos, somewhere in between there. Just really amazing. It was all fact-checked the next day, as they always do, but I just would have loved to have heard someone say that at the press conference.
So a rant against all of the...
A rant, yes, against the crew in the room.
Right, all those...
Who might have said something significant.
Okay.
Everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
Everybody. I have a rave for the PBS NewsHour for the way that they have been covering the controversy over Brett Kavanaugh and the accusations of sexual assault. And my rave is for the fact that they have gone with an almost all-female crew to cover this. It's really been impressive. The news, you see Judy Woodruff, Yamiche Alcindor, and Lisa Desjardins at the top of the hour. Then they go to the talk segment with Amy Walter and Elizabeth Holtzman and Michael Gerson, the token guy on the crew. And then especially in the report that they did after the hearing, where they did 50 of their 60 minutes was on the hearing, they ended it with yet another journalist, Amna Nawaz, another female journalist, interviewing a friend of Dr. Blasey Ford's and a friend of Judge Kavanaugh's, who also were both women. And I think given the nature of this story and given the huge cultural discussion that we're having around these issues, it was more than appropriate and it was good to see.
Okay. Joanna.
So I'm going to get out of Washington and go local and give a rave, which we could have given last week as well, to the Lawrence Eagle Tribune, which has been covering the Merrimack Valley gas explosions really, really well and sort of showing the need for and the value of local news. I mean, they had a rough start because I think a lot of the reporters were affected as well when it happened, but they've been dogged. There have been, both watchdog journalism, service journalism, human interest features. They've really been covering, this critical news event in their backyards incredibly well. They're also under a lot of pressure. They are for sale. They've been newsroom cuts. I mean, all of the things that happen in local newsrooms are happening to them, and they're doing their best work under those circumstances.
That's very good. Glad you pointed that out.
They're an exemplary paper and have been for a long time, Pulitzer-winning tradition, all kinds of things going for them.
Okay. Lylah.
So I have a rave for Slate. They ran an article this week about the opportunity that the Kavanaugh hearings have to shine a light on toxic bro culture. If you grew up in the 80s, you'll remember that culture was kind of glorified in movies like not just 16 Candles, but Porky, which was one of the top grossing movies of 1981. And you've got Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and you've got Animal House in the 70s. But in the prep school circuit, it was writ even larger. And full disclosure, I'm a former prep school kid. So a lot of the descriptions you heard about the behavior of people there, the acceptance of that behavior, was really familiar. And so I'm glad that if there's anything positive coming out of this, that there's a light being shined on this and some discussion, and maybe some people are willing to talk about what happened to them back then.
Okay.
Top grossing movie. I like that.
That's right.
Crazy.
Okay, I have a rave for BBC Africa and their investigative team. This is an interesting story. So over the summer, there was this video that went viral. It was a horrific video of military soldiers marching off 2 women and 2 young kids to be executed. They're shot 22 times. The government of Cameroon had been pushing back and saying, this is not happening in our country, it was not our soldiers. And so this team decided to go in and investigate. And they used some amazing techniques, grabbing some Google Earth shots, overlaying them with video from the scene, and you see that red line there. It was able to identify the mountain range, right? So they could figure out exactly where it happened. They looked at satellite photos, were able to see a road and match that with the road that the soldiers walked, the women down and the kids down. The government kept pushing back in Cameroon and saying this is all fake news, but they kept going. They identified guns and uniforms and different things that really pinpointed it down to the time of day that this occurred in Cameroon. Ultimately, 7 people were arrested. They've been able to identify, who was behind this, and the government is now no longer calling it, fake news. So, great journalism. It's good to see that happening and using innovative techniques.